What kind of work?
Oh, you know, knock over a gas station, maybe a hamburger joint, a liquor store. Nothing risky.
Oh, no. Oh, wait a minute, Jerry. I didn't know that you were talking about that kind of work.
Something wrong?
Well, I've done a lot of things in my time, but...
Suit yourself. Just trying to get you a break. You asked me, didn't you?
Well, yes, I asked you, but I...
Well, what? Anybody else make any better offer lately? You guys kill me. They kick in the teeth, the more they kick you, the better you like it. What are you looking for? Handouts? Yeah, there's $10. Live.
Don't get sore, Jerry.
Who's sore? I feel sorry for you. They tell you the trouble's the First National Bank. They'll listen to you. They got a special tough luck department. Come on, take the $10 and get out of here.
Jerry.
Yeah.
Who's your friend?
Who do you think?
A blind street preacher calls out to a small crowd about their hidden sins and their responsibilities to one another. He asks, "How much is each of you guilty for all of the evil in the world?" As he's guided down from his podium, he trips and his tracts fall onto the ground, under the feet of passers-by. Try and Get Me is adapted from a novel by Joe Pagano, which itself was based on a vigilante killing that happened in San José in 1933. A mob of 4,000 gathered, stirred by the emotional tenor of news coverage, dragged out 2 men accused of murder, and executed them. The film brings these events into the present day of 1950 as a comment on the absence of community and brotherhood in an America racked with social malaise and moral decay. It preaches the need for such fellowship as a defense against populism and sensationalism in the press. The street preacher's questions of social responsibility resonate through the hopeless straits in which protagonist Howard Tyler finds himself. Howard Tyler is looking for work. With a growing family, living in a small, depressed shanty town in California, he's desperate to improve their circumstances. In a bowling alley, Tyler meets Jerry Slocum, a petty criminal with hypnotic and inspiring confidence, who convinces Tyler to join up with him as his driver as he robs gas stations.
Shut up. Lucky I didn't kill him.
The scores are small compared to Tyler's needs and Slocum's greed. They decide to kidnap Donald Miller, the son of a wealthy man, in order to secure a big payday through ransom. When Slocum realizes that the location he had picked to store Miller isn't secure, he murders him, to Tyler's shock.
Jerry! Wait, Jerry!
Slocum's conscience can handle it, Tyler's cannot, and he finds himself in a spiral of guilt and confusion. Slocum arranges for them to send a ransom letter regardless, while on a double date, with their dates unknowingly serving as a cover for them. Tyler connects with his date, a shy, lonely, and compassionate wallflower. Drunk and desperate to confess, he admits to her what they've done, frightening and humiliating her.
Why did he have to kill him? All he said was he was going to hold him until we got the money. He never said he was going to kill him. Why did he have to kill him?
She goes to the police, and this leads to their arrest. Throughout, a local journalist, Gil Stanton, stirs up resentment towards the men through his columns.
People love to be scared to death. The more you scare them, the more papers they buy.
His articles inspire a mob to break into the jail where the men are being held.
Get your jacket on.
It's not finished.
Even with the actions of 1933 displaced to the production year of 1950, the Tyler family represent the ghosts of the Dustbowl. It's implied that they've moved to California by necessity. Whatever it was that Americans had sought in the journey west hadn't found the Tyler family, and their grocery debts are a reminder that fate is as likely to deny as to provide. The pain of their situation is held in contrast to the high life enjoyed by Gil Stanton. The small pleasures of their life, crowded television viewing in a neighboring house, is contrasted with a banquet party in the Stanton home, where topics of witty, mannered conversation range from bridge games to boogie-woogie piano. The enchanted hobbies of the rich reveal the distance between them and working people, a distance that easily allows Stanton to rationalize his muckraking. Dehumanizing Howard Tyler helps him sell headlines. People love to be frightened, he explains to a friend, visiting Italian sociologist Dr. Vito Simone, who expresses concern about the consequences of Stanton's editorials.
Well, can you make it kind of quick?
You are condemning these two men without trial, without investigation. Gil, all of this is a direct appeal to the emotionalism of your readers.
Well, that was the idea, Vito.
But Gil, this is wrong. It can have serious consequences. As a journalist, you have great responsibilities.
I'm trying to meet them. And the first one is to get the story. Honest, I've got to run. I'll try and get back in time. And don't worry, Tyler and his partner will get a fair trial whether they deserve it or not.
All I want is 50 guys with guts enough to go in and get them. Let's go!
By the time these lessons sink in, Stanton is too late to change the course of what he's set in motion. His public condemnation of the men incites the mob. Once the crowd gathers at the courthouse, Stanton is powerless to stop them. Reluctant and regretful, he has, nevertheless, served as their demagogic conductor. Try and Get Me is about collective responsibility and collective guilt. To put it in moral terms, it's a film about being your brother's keeper. This theme of social responsibility is articulated by Dr. Simone, and is explicitly broadcast by Slocum when he responds to Tyler's objections about killing Donald Miller by asking, "What is he, your brother?"
This is the biggest story that ever hit this town. You're doing a great job.
While Stanton soon regrets his role, he represents an industry that the film is putting on trial. American journalism is portrayed as a field of manipulative carnival barkers, exaggerating, lying, and feeding moral decay by offering judgments to the court of public opinion. The mob of 1933 finds a direct parallel in the mob of 1950. McCarthyism and the Red Scare, another cruel manifestation of populism, share the sentiments of the newspaper and the mob, and would prefer an America of free enterprise and unrestrained individualism.
Judy? Honey?
Howard Tyler's transit from family man to prisoner plays out in expressionist style. Southern California becomes a trap of sweltering days and mysterious nights.
Okay, kid. That's enough.
The cinematography emphasizes low angles that cause Slocum to loom godlike in early scenes. Tyler and Slocum's crime spree is cloaked in shadows, romancing their criminality, and those scenes take place at real locations in naturalistic low lighting.
Here it is. You nervous?
No. Well, maybe.
So was I the first time. You'll get used to it.
Tyler's guilt over the killing manifests on screen through illusions and associations. When he reads Slocum's ransom letter, he's distracted by the pounding of meat in a restaurant. Later, on their double date, he remembers Slocum pounding the victim's head in. As the date goes on, oblique angles suggest a hallucinatory atmosphere, convivial to drunken embarrassments and confessions. Nowhere is the stylization of the film more apparent than in the final confrontation with the crowd, as Slocum barks like a madman, rattling at his cage, and the camera surveys the pensive, frightened stares of the other inmates. These scenes are intercut with documental footage of the gathering mob, peopled with the faces of non-actors in the streets of Phoenix, Arizona, standing in for San Jose.
I begged you this morning not to treat this tragic crime with thoughtless emotionalism.
But Tyler is guilty.
Yes, Tyler is guilty. But hate is not the answer. It is wrong to treat Tyler and his accomplice as though they aren't members of the human race. Men don't live in a vacuum. They live with one another. And if a man becomes a criminal, sometimes his environment is defective. If only we began early enough with the child. That is why I decided to make my lecture tour. In my own small way, I've tried to point out that violence is a disease caused by moral and social breakdown. This is the real problem between nations as well as people. And it must be solved by reason, not by emotion. With understanding, not hate. Only thus can we regain the moral center of our universe. Do you not remember how often we discussed these things in the old days?
Of course I remember, Vito. Of course you're right. I used words as criminally as they used that rock.
It is easy to forget our humanity.
Dr. Simone, as the voice of reason, is reminiscent of another Italian intellectual, commenting on the nature of fascism and mob mentality. Elias Canetti, who in 1960 would write Crowds and Power, on collectivity, violence, and the psychology of the crowd, offered that a murder shared with many others is irresistible to the majority of men. Canetti gained his insights into the dangers of populism by living through European fascism. Try and Get Me draws parallels between life under fascism and life in Joseph McCarthy's America. The HUAC witch hunts were born from the belief that dangerous, antagonistic forces were hiding in plain sight. But worse are the secrets of the heart, a longing to participate in something ugly, brutal, and cruel, convincing ourselves that it resembles justice. Whether in 1933 or in 1950, America was longing for bloodshed, and the soul of man was still living in the Colosseum of ancient Rome.
It is easy to forget our humanity.